Jacob's PTSD breakdown, Victor Newman's endorsement, and Joey faces the Impaler. Let's get into it.
Hey y'all, hey, welcome back to the deep dive with Toya Creates. Sorry for the delay, but we are back and we are going to go over the entire week of June 1st of Beyond the Gates. So let's get into it. So Monday, June 1st, we started with Andre and Chelsea running across each other or crossing paths at Orphe Jeans, and Chelsea decides to join her stepdad for breakfast. And so they have a chance to talk about Derek and Andre's, like surprising grief. Because for those who do not know, unfortunately, the week before, which I missed out on in recapping, the whole plasma ring bust, and Derek unfortunately lost his life. And so Andre is having a pity party, so to speak. And he's just wondering, like, well, if he didn't interfere with Ashley and Derek's relationship, he wonders if things would have turned out differently, which is a stretch in my mind, but whatever. He feels how he feels. So Chelsea and he have this conversation, and they just talk about Derek because Derek was kind of close to the family with his relationship with Naomi and Jacob as well. And so she's able to ease his mind a little bit there. So, nothing major there, just catching up on what is currently going on. Then we see Jacob and Naomi. Jacob is finally back because, like I said, the blood plasma ring has been exposed. Leah has been arrested. Ren has been arrested. Grayson's given his statement. The only thing that is left to do is to identify the impaler because unfortunately, when the bust happened, it was right before the impaler was about to join the meeting. Naomi is getting very concerned about Jacob, who is just struggling with the grief, struggling with what happened. Derek's dad popped up last week for to pick up like Derek's personal effects, and he did not make it any better because his father completely blames Jacob for the death. And Jacob has just internalized that. He just feels like, there's nothing for him to celebrate because, Elon, who is Jacob's father and chief of police, wants to recognize Jacob's efforts. And he's just like, there's nothing to celebrate. I didn't get the impaler, and my friend is dead, and it's my fault. And Naomi's trying to explain to him, like, it's not your fault. Derek made the decision to jump in front of number one. Derek made the decision to go to the warehouse where he had no business being in the first place, and then he made the other decision to jump in front of a bullet for you. And Naomi is happy that he did that, of course, because she still has her husband. But now, Jacob is spiraling out, and he is basically vowing to not have any rest until he figures out who this impaler is and he nails everybody who is included in this mess. So then we also see Randy and Joey at the casino. Now, Joey has maintained for weeks that he doesn't know who this impaler is. He's not working with them. But we saw the week before June 1st, Joey get a phone call from either the impaler directly or someone setting up a meeting, and Joey agrees to have a meeting with the impaler. So Randy and Joey are talking about that while we see Vanessa and Nicole meeting up at the country club, and Vanessa is going through some of Doug's personal effects because she finally cleaned out his locker the other week. And so she's going down memory lane, and she honestly, I know people are going to say, what to say about, I call her Community P, read in between the lines, but she is still very much grieving Doug and she really just hasn't dealt with it yet. Not totally and completely. And so Nicole is there and she's telling her just that. She's just like, you need to give yourself time to really grieve and mourn the loss of Doug. So let's see what goes on with Vanessa. Next, we see Shanice and Ted at the hospital. Things have been rocky for them the past month or so. Now, Shanice was very close to Derek as well, and so she has been struggling with her grief. Like, things are okay with Ted and Shanice now, but Ted is treading very lightly, and so he asked Nicole to talk to Shanice about her grief the other week as well. And so Ted is encountering Shanice at the hospital and they are talking about that. And she's just like, so you asked Nicole to talk to me instead of you, my boyfriend, just talking to me? And he was like, I mean, I didn't want to mess things up. Oh, hey, thumbs up. He doesn't want to mess things up. And he was like, Nicole is one of the best in her field here. And he just really thought it would be a better idea for Shanice to talk to someone who is better versed in this. First, Shanice is like, but then she actually ends up thanking him for doing that, and that, her conversation with Nicole did help a bit. So Ted and Shanice are going to remain in a decent place, please, because I am rooting for them, but I think he's going to go back with Nicole. If he ever gets that opportunity, that's what I feel will happen. So after Ted and Shanice, we go back to Vanessa and Nicole, who are having like a little kiki about their, well, Nicole's reverse harem and Vanessa and Joey. And, Vanessa's like, yeah, I'm all the woman that Joey needs and no fantasies required. And then speaking of fantasies, Vanessa asks Nicole, like, does it give you pause that neither Kyle nor Carlton make you have fantasies, even though Nicole has been fantasizing about head. So Nicole dances around that and then she decides that she is going to confront Ted about these fantasies. I'm like, oh my God, why? Why would you do? If you guys are separated, I mean, I don't know. Vanessa had advised Nicole to scratch that itch a while ago, and I was like, I don't know, because I'm kind of petty. I feel like if you're my husband once, you're always going to be my husband, and I could take you whenever I want. But that's the toxic part of me, siding with Vanessa. But I don't know if I would get to the point where I'm like, oh, hey, ex husband, I've been having fantasies about you, so let's talk about it. But whatever, Nicole has decided that is what she's going to do. All right. So then we go back to the casino and we see Randy and Joey talking. And Randy is talking about how Joey's a little different now because he is in love with Vanessa. So Joey is being a little more open, a little more vulnerable, which in my opinion is going to lead to risk. And I don't know if it's going to be worth it in the end, but they have that quick little conversation, and Joey's like, yeah, because Vanessa's my woman, basically, and I'm going to protect her and I'm going to do what I need to do for her. But I don't know, Joey. I think you're going to end up in the Stony Lonesome dealing with her. So then Randy and Joey continue to discuss the Impaler in this upcoming meeting. And Joey is just like, this Impaler has a large body count. Most recently, they killed Derek. And Joey doesn't want anyone in his organization or anyone close to it basically coming to the same fate. And so this meeting has to be on his terms and his terms only. And so that's where they end the discussion. So then we go back to Ted and Shanice really quickly, and he's actually talking to her from his perspective of grief because Shanice is really struggling with Derek's death, like I said earlier. And this time, Ted is able to talk to her about his own experience when he lost his brother and his sister in law, who were Andre's parents. And so Ted was able to give her advice from that perspective. And so she thanked him, and everything was fine from there. So then eventually Nicole does show up at the hospital, and she goes to Ted asking to talk. And he's just like, oh, like, ooh, okay, sure. What do you want to talk about? But before she can get it out, they get interrupted by Shanice. And so Nicole clams up, does not say anything, and gives them the room. I am glad that happened because I was like, this is a bad idea. You do not need to tell this man about these fantasies, in my opinion. So then we also see Vanessa coming to the casino later, and she interrupts the conversation that Randy and Joey are having preparing for the Impaler. She doesn't hear anything, which is great, and she's just like, she is worried about Jacob, who is dead set on bringing down this Impaler, and Jacob thinks that Joey is the Impaler, and so she wants to know what they are going to do about Jacob's insinuation. So Joey just plays it off per usual, and Vanessa accepts that. And then she goes on about her business. And, we see Isaiah come to the casino because Isaiah and Joey are very close. Joey is the reason why Isaiah basically got on the right path. Even though he was also the reason why he kind of got on the bad path, but Joey saw something in Isaiah and he knew he was better than that. And so he made sure that Isaiah got out of the game. And so they have a very close relationship. So Isaiah is stopping by the casino on his way to Jacob's commendation. That's what they call it. This is the celebration that Elon wants to give to Jacob to commemorate his work on this blood plasma thing. And Isaiah just gets straight to it. He's like, I know we have a good relationship, and I just want to know directly, did you have anything to do with my brother Jacob almost being killed? And Joey is like, no, and he tells Isaiah that he's always been straight with him and he will never harm any member of the Hawthorne family. And Isaiah goes to interject, but he was like, no, full stop. I will never do that. That's how much you mean to me. And you know what? I believe it because I feel like Joey feels like Isaiah is like his little pseudo son. So Isaiah accepts that and then he goes on his way. And I believe it too. And then we also see Naomi and Jacob still talking about the situation, and she just lets it slip because she said something like, there's so much things that we had to handle or juggle. And I think she was referring to her BRCA gene diagnosis, which she still has not told anybody, and I'm sick of it because why not? It doesn't mean you have cancer today. It just means like, oh, you might have a higher chance of getting it later, but whatever. So she covers and she's just like, oh, I meant with grandma being sick and all of the other things that happen. But again, she's just worried that Jacob is just going down a spiral of sorts with this grief and potential PTSD. And so she is worried about that and just wants to keep an eye on him. And that's basically what happened for Monday. So let's get into Tuesday, June 2nd. Okay, so on Tuesday, June 2nd, we opened with Bill and Haley. They are at the country club getting ready to have a meal. Maybe it's lunch, breakfast. I don't remember. But she is busy hiding her poison in her brassiere. Okay. Now, the week before this, Bill has been experiencing some tremors, which we know the result of Haley's continued poisoning of him, but he is still none the wiser. This is going to be inappropriate, but I told my friend today I'm using my goods wrong because Haley got some kryptonite. There have been so many red flags and he just ignores them all because the power of the you know what. But whatever. So she's sitting there hiding the poison, and he walks up and she's just like, "Oh, how's your hand doing?" And he goes to put his arm around her, and she's like, "No, don't!" And he's like, "Damn, like, what's going on?" She don't want him to feel that poison in her bra, but she deflects as usual. She's like, "Oh my god, I thought I saw the mater D coming, and we're just working on our status in the community, and I don't want us to look a certain way." So Bill is clearly offended by all of this. He's just like, I don't know what to make of it, and he's also in his head because in the prior week, Danny had a conversation with him talking about how bad Mike, his former partner, was in the firm because Mike was the reason why the firm was sued for sexual harassment last year, and that's why Mike got fired. But Danny was holding Bill's feet to the fire in that she was like, "You were not paying attention to what was going on. Mike even hit on me," which pissed Bill off because he was just like, how did I miss all of this? Well, you missed it because you was too busy chasing Skirts and Haley. That's why. So Danny was like, "This is exactly why Naomi didn't want to work at your firm in the beginning." And he was just like really hurt about that. And first he was trying to like refute what Danny was saying, but then he just like realized, you know what? You're right. I missed all of this and I didn't protect you guys the way I should have. So Bill has been in his head about that. So then when Haley rejects him like that, he's just like, this is reminding me of a conversation that I had with Danny. Now, why did he say that? Haley was like, ugh. Like, she can never not have a conversation about Danny with this man. So then he was just talking about the conversation with Danny and how he felt guilty and so like stupid, and he thought he was being a better husband to Haley than he was being to Danny, but he was like, maybe I'm not. So then they go to their table and they are just talking things out, and Haley is she was like, basically Danny was the reason that you guys broke up because if she was doing what she was supposed to do as a wife, I'm so sick of Haley. I hope to God this week coming exposes her, but if not this week, maybe the following because I am so sick of this bedwinch. I am tired of it and I'm ready for her to be exposed. But they are still talking and things are basically smooth over at that point. But we will come back to them a little later because also this is the day of Jacob's accommodation. I believe that's what it's called. And he shows up at the precinct. He has not been there since the undercover case started. And so, he and Marcel tickles me. I'm sorry. I know he's like a bad guy. He's a heel, but he's funny. Because I love it when people are older like that and they just don't care. I love that. So before Jacob comes in, Marcel and Elon were actually talking about the good work that Jacob did. And Elon is just so proud because that's his son. And so he's very excited about that. And to my surprise, Marcel was giving Jacob his flowers as well. So he was like, you know what? The kid did good for his first case. And he's actually proud of him. And he was like, maybe I should have kept him as a partner. So then Jacob comes in there. He is still gloomy because he is mad. He is sad. He is all the things. But Marcel does not hesitate to bust his balls. And it is funny to me. He was like, oh, look who finally showed up. Making jokes like, oh, you must have been in bed with Naomi and this and that. And Jacob was like, I don't need your crap today, Marcel. Elon was like, whoa. So then he pulls them apart. Even though they weren't really fighting, but he Jacob Jacob had a little more Rashad in him, didn't he? Marcel back down, I know that. So then Elon pulls him to the side and he's just like, what's going on? And Jacob just talks about his frustrations about the plasma ring, and then of course Derek dying, and how he doesn't feel like he deserves this commendation. He doesn't feel like the job is done. He feels like he failed. But Elon is like, no, you didn't. This was your first major case. You brought down Ren, you brought down Leah. We are very close to figuring out who the Impaler actually is, and you shut down the ring in the DMV area. So you deserve to be recognized. And Elon was like, I am so proud of you. And you can see it. Elon is like, he is very excited about this day. And so is Darlene, Jacob's mama. Let's talk about her. So we saw Jacob, not sorry, we saw Isaiah and Darlene at Orphe Jeans because Isaiah was like, I'm going to get something to eat before I go to this accommodation because the food there is gonna suck. And I know what you mean. I hate going to an event and the food is gonna be trash. You better eat beforehand, but whatever. So they are talking, and Darlene, I mean, I don't like her. Sorry, I don't like snooty people. Okay. She is not feeling Eva because of Leslie, but Eva is not her mother. But because of the connection, she has already made up in her mind that Eva is a piece of trash and she doesn't want Isaiah with. And so, they kind of get on the topic, and Isaiah has to set his mother straight. And that's how you do have to handle it. At least Isaiah is not a mama's boy. Thank you for that. He was basically like, you have said disparaging things about Eva, and I'm not going to tolerate it. And if you want me around, you are going to accept her and you are going to be nice. Because Arlene was going on and on about, like, I want all of the guys, I want you guys to come over to the house and celebrate Jacob. And he was like, oh, is Eva invited? And she was like, I thought it was just going to be family. He's like, no, no, no. That's my woman. If I'm there, she's going to be there. And you better get used to it. Love that for them. We also saw Leslie with her crazy tail. She has let herself into Eva's. He was in the shower, getting ready, singing her little songs or whatever. She comes out, what are you doing here? And Leslie is a lot, but she does really love her daughter in a weird way sometimes. And Leslie is just feeling like they are like Eva doesn't have a lot of time for her anymore. But Eva don't have the time, Leslie, because you got her working like working day and night, 7 days a week. She's working at the clinic now because Derek has died and Leslie asked her to help with that. And then, but Eva was already working at Ted's plastic surgery, what do you call it, firm, or I don't know, I don't call it. And so Eva's been like, girl, I don't have time because I'm doing what you asked me to do. But Leslie just is fearful that they are losing their connection and she just wants to have time with her daughter. And Eva's like, she reassures her mother that she will always be number one in her life. And so she finally gets her mother to just leave because Eva's like, I have things to do, but she doesn't tell her what she's doing because we know that Eva is going to be joining Isaiah at the event for Jacob. Okay, so now it's finally time for Jacob's accommodation. Marcella's in the middle of giving him a gag gift. It's a mug that says, not the world's best detective, with a 1 star. And Jacob was like, see, Dad, look at what he's doing to me. But it was funny to me. Jacob took the joke. They fist bumped, and in walks Darlene with her chocolate cake. She is so excited for her baby today. She cannot even contain herself. And Isaiah is there as well. Now, Darlene has agreed to be nice, especially to Eva. So let's see. So Jacob is just still not really in the mood, but he's going along with it. And Eva arrives, and Isaiah's like, "Oh, baby, come get in the picture with us." Because at this point, Jacob, Darlene, and Isaiah are taking pictures, and Elon's the one capturing everything. And so Isaiah wants Eva in, and Darlene's like, you know those mothers. She's one of those mothers. And, she playing nice nasty. She was just like, "Oh, okay." And then she was like, "Oh, well, another picture with you, Elon. Like, you, Eva, you can take the picture." Jacob, Jacob has had enough. He was like, "Damn, how many more pictures?" And he was done. So that was that on. And then Darlene's looking at the pictures in her phone, and this halfway is about to delete the picture with Eva in it. When Isaiah's like, "Oh, Mom, send me that picture with Eva," and she's like, "I hate them all. I don't like mothers. When you want pop your teeth out of your son's mouth and let him be a man, but and he's already laid down the law to you, so all of this is whatever, girl. You like it, I love it." Anyways, so Isaiah and Eva are off in a little corner to themselves, and Danny and Naomi have arrived at this point, and they're just mingling, and everything is going okay. So Danny is questioning, "Well, where is Bill? This is a family event, and he should be here." And Naomi tells her, "Well, Dad's not coming because I spoke to Haley, and she said that Dad wouldn't be able to make it." And then he was like, "Okay, well, let me text him anyways." So she sends Bill a text just commenting on, like, "Oh, too bad you're missing this important family event." And Bill was like, "What event at the table?" And here comes Haley. Girl, give her the Oscar, give her the daytime Emmy, all of it. "Oh, well, I mean, when Naomi called, you were asleep and you've been so stressed out lately. I just said that you wouldn't be able to attend." I'm so sick of it. It's so blatant. Like, I don't understand why Bill is being this big of a lick. I hate it. So he is upset, of course, and then he just asked that, going forward, don't make any unilateral decisions for me. Because she's like, "I was just trying to protect you, and I'm sorry," and I shot up. Anyways, so once again, the power of the what has got Bill in a chokehold. So he accepts that, and then he walks away from the table. I think he gets a phone call or something about the case he's working on. So then she sees a waiter and she has him refill his coffee. So clearly they're eating breakfast, I guess. Refill the coffee. Now, this was so wild to me. She had the coffee on the saucer on the table, but she decides to take it and put it in her lap under the table and under the table. It's like, you're so obvious. But anyway, so she doses this cup of coffee, and Bill comes back once again, none the wiser, and proceeds to drink the cup. Nothing happens because she's increased the dose, but she feels like it's working, and Bill still has no clue. So it's basically all we see from the Hamiltons. Whatever, ain't good enough. So then we come back to Jacob's event, and unfortunately this baby has PTSD as far as I'm concerned. He's standing up there waiting to be given his plaque, and he zones out, and he keeps hearing the gunshots that killed Derek. He has not told anybody this yet, but that is what's going on. So he's just like, and then he snaps back into it. And Elon gives him his plaque and awards him, and everybody's happy but Jacob. He threw that plaque in the drawer. Naomi came over. She was like, "Oh, do you want some cake?" And he's like, "No, what I really want is a drink, and I'm getting out of here." So she's just like, "Oh, should I come with you? Should I?" He ain't wait for Naomi. He ain't. And she was like, let me cover for us. And he was like, "Man, whatever." And he just leaves. Okay, so then Naomi goes to Danny and she's like, "Please cover for us." Jacob basically needed to excuse himself and please cover for us. She tells that to Danny, and then I think Danny relays it to Smitty because Smitty's there as well, just supporting. And so, yeah, we see Jacob leave. We never see Naomi leave. Now, before we leave this precinct, guess who crashes? Leslie is there with treats for her man, Marcel, and some donuts. That's what she said. So she pops up at this precinct and she was not aware of Jacob's accommodation. And so Eva's like, Mama, what are you doing here? And Leslie's like, well, you didn't tell me about this. I came here to surprise my man, but you didn't even tell me about this, and you're hanging out with them. Oh. So then Darlene is there as well. And how did Leslie phrase this? She was like, at least we're in this precinct just in case I gotta beat your ass. To Darlene, I was like, oh my god. I mean, I know they got beef, but I'm like, dang, Leslie, not today. And Darlene was like, you know what? We'll try it and find out. I'm like, oh, no, 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 not today. But I love that happened to Darlene because right before Darlene was talking to Marcel because Darlene is friends with Marcel's ex-wife, Sheila, I believe. Or I thought the boat's name was Sheila, but whatever, his ex-wife. And she was just like, oh, like, your ex-wife is doing XYZ and just doing fine. Like trying to throw shots at Marcel. But Leslie came in there and killed all that noise. And Marcel was like, so thankfully, the women do not get into fisticuffs precinct, and Eva is able to talk some sense into some temporary sense into Leslie, and she's just like, please, like, don't do this. It's already difficult enough with the way Darlene feels about you and me and Isaiah and this and that, and like you couldn't even be nice if you wanted to, because then Leslie was like talking trash about Darlene's cake. She was like, what is that monstrosity on that table? And he was like, hush, that's Mrs. Hawthorne's favorite chocolate cake. And you couldn't even be nice if you tried. And Leslie was like, oh, I can out nice her. So then Leslie goes over to the table to pretend to help clean up. But she uses this moment to throw more jabs at Darlene. And these jabs actually hurt even more because Leslie was like, well, maybe if you were a little bit nicer, you would have more time with your son because it looks like your son likes hanging out more with me than you at this point. And she gives her the rest of the stuff and she goes over to where Isaiah and Eva and I think someone else was standing there. And she's just like, and gives him a hug. And Darlene's like, oh, because it is true in this moment. So that was basically it for the precinct. We end with seeing Jacob. He has gone to Uptown to get a drink. This used to be like Derek's favorite hangout as well. So he's there to get a drink, and Kat is still there. She was actually there earlier. I forgot to mention this. She was there earlier and she ran into Smitty and they were just talking about how she wanted to do a podcast and she still wants to do she wants to keep digging into things. And Smitty's like, this life is not a joke. It's not a game, and you should just maybe stick to your podcast. But whatever. So Jacob's there, and he's just looking distraught and crazy. She's like, "Oh my god, what's wrong? Why wasn't she at the thing?" Anyways, and he's just like, "I just need a drink." And like, how many drinks do you think it'll take for me not to hear the sounds of my friend being shot? And he just wants to drown it out. And she's like, "Oh my goodness!" And she gets up and she hugs Jacob. Now, why was his first inclination to tell Kat what he's actually doing, but not his wife, or not what he's doing, what he has been experiencing? Because he heard the gunshots the first time, I believe, while he was in bed with Naomi, but he did not say anything. But then you spill your guts to Kat. I hope to God this is not a setup for him and Kat to have any type of relations or dealings. I hope not, but you never know in a soap. So he opens up the cat real quick and she gives him a hug, and that's how it ends. And the whole time I was like, well, why couldn't you say that to your wife? But whatever, let's get into the next day. So Wednesday, June 3rd, we finally see Nicole talking to Anita about her fantasies. Yuck, gross, gag, whatever. But so, like, Anita and Vernon finally had their time to themselves because they had been trying to get in some sexy time and they kept getting interrupted. And so Nicole pops over. Well, she was already there and she overheard Vernon and Anita talking about how, like, what cover they used to use back in the day to get away from the family so they could have some sexy time. How they made up a whole lie about them needing to visit a cousin named Emerson, but they was really in a hotel in town. Nicole was like, well, so we've never had a cousin Emerson. Ha ha ha, blah, blah, blah. So Vernon leaves because Vernon and Anita have been pitching the chief of staff role that Leah literally blew up and destroyed at Garland to Dr. Monica McCormick, who is Shanice's aunt, who I love. So he leaves to basically go check up on that so Nicole and Anita can talk. So Anita can sniff out already. She was like, this is about sex, isn't it? Come on, Anita. And Nicole's like, Mother, not everything is about sex, but it is. That's what Anita said, but that's what this is about, ain't it? So then they start talking about the fantasies, like I said, and Anita's just like, okay. Mm, what was the advice that she gave her? I don't remember because I wasn't able to like recap this episode in my drama while I designed because it was a week and I got behind because life be laughing and it is what it is. So I don't remember the advice that she gave Nicole, but I'm gonna figure it out. I'm gonna get back to you on that. But they have a conversation about that, and she just, gives her some real talk. Like, it's natural to feel these things. You were with this man forever, and there were like a series of events because Nicole thinks that's what it was as well. I do remember that. She was just like, you getting cancer, Chelsea being kidnapped, Samantha becoming a debutante, like these, especially Samantha becoming a debutante. Like these are the types of events where originally when you thought about them you would be with Ted, so it's like natural to feel that. But I think Anita kind of cautioned her against talking to Ted about these fantasies. That's what it was, because Nicole was like, well, yeah, I went to go and talk to him, and he was like, well, why? And I agree, but she was like, Shanice interrupted us, and I think it was a sign, and so she didn't say anything. So I think that was basically it. There wasn't a lot there, and I'm not going to belabor the point. So then we also saw that Martin and Ted had some time together, which is always great to see because you wouldn't know that they are father and son. But apparently, I think the way they play this off is that their relationship got a little damaged during the whole Leslie Eva reveal, and so they are finally getting back on track. So Ted just feels really happy that his son was able to carve out some time for them because, Martin is in the middle of this campaign and he is very busy. So during this conversation, they are catching up on things, and Ted is asking, like, what is going on with your mother, Nicole? Like, she is so hot and cold sometimes. I literally don't know what's going on. We know it's because of the fantasies, but Ted has no idea. And so Martin does say, like, I did pick up on some energy between you two at the cotillion. Anita has said that too. She was like, I've seen the sparks between you guys. But whatever. Martin's like, yeah, I saw that. And he can tell that Ted is kind of like on the fence, even though Ted has told Shanice, you are the woman I want. I'm interested in you. So, even though Ted has told her that, you could tell that if Nicole gives him the time of day, Shanice is done. But whatever. And Martin's just like, well, what's going on with that? And are you sure that you want to potentially mess up something that could be really good, meaning Ted and Shanice, for something that's just like basically over. And so I believe Ted left that conversation like, yeah, things are over. I don't need to revisit that. And so it doesn't appear that he is. And that was very nice. Now, Ted also met up with his other child earlier in the episode because, unbeknownst to everyone, Eva is really taking Derek's death harder than what people probably imagine because they really didn't know each other that well and they had just started working with each other at the clinic. But Derek had done such a great job, and Eva really loved what he contributed and got to know him a little bit and liked him. And so it's just really, she was like telling Ted how she was feeling because she's never lost someone that close to her, even though they weren't super close, but like, just that close to you. And Ted was like, well, I have. And he goes over grief again. And he's like, that's what you're experiencing. And he advises her to just take like an entire week off from his job because he was like, I have to focus on the clinic because I don't want to let Derek down. And he had this place running so well. And I want to just basically respect his legacy and the things that he did here. And so Ted is like, yeah, he totally gets it. And he's going to give her the week off just so she can work through these feelings. And he also encourages her to, maybe you could find someone who was closer to Derek and you guys could talk about it together. And so I thought it was very nice when Eva, she happened to be at the hospital and she went up to Shanice and she asked to talk. And Shanice thought it was about the plastic surgery firm or whatever. And she's like, no, it's about Derek. So then they are both able to have conversation. Like Shanice is able to relive the good times and all of the things that she loved about Derek. And Eva's able to learn more about him. And they leave it with like thanking each other for being a listening ear. And Eva's like, if you ever want to talk more and like relive more of the good times about Derek, you know where to find me. And so I think that's really nice. Okay, I'm a sucker for these kinds of things. Anyways, speaking of me being a sucker. So Samantha is basking in the afterglow of becoming platinum debutante. And I loved it for her because she was the underdog. She was being treated like little orphan Annie. And I hated that. I hated how Francesca and her dingbat ass grandmother were treating her like she didn't belong and she wasn't good enough. I don't like that at all. So Samantha has her crown and stuff, and we see Kat and Chelsea at Martin and Smitty. So it was the kids. So Samantha, Tyrell, Smitty, Martin, Chelsea, and Kat at Martin and Smitty's house. Smitty is in the middle of trying to wrap up his investigative journal. What do you call it? Article? That's the word, after this blood plasma thing. And he is like done at this point because everyone's talking. Martin's on the phone. Tyrell, oh, Jessica's there too because they're playing chess. Tyrell is in his feelings because it's almost time for Jessica to go off to UCLA and he's just, being passive aggressive and they having a little argument back there. And Chelsea and Kat are there to do some content for Chelsea Kat as Samantha is their spokesperson. And so Smitty has had enough. When Samantha is in the middle of doing this content and just tosses his papers in his lap, Smitty was like, everybody out. You too, Martin, so whatever. So then Samantha and Kat and Chelsea end up at Orphe Jeans and they're checking up on their knee. Is niece slash cousin. I don't feel like doing the math right now. I think niece slash cousin. They check on Samantha, just like, oh, how are you feeling after the debutante win, and how was the experience? And she talks about how Francesca stepped on her dress and tried to sabotage things, and how she thought she was going to have to walk without an escort because Tyrell wasn't, not Tyrell. Donnell wasn't there and she had no idea that he was in the last minute. And they were like, oh my gosh, like that's so much. Oh, they had also advised Samantha not to pursue anything with Donnell because he's a college man and she's a junior. Again, I thought Tyrell and Samantha were twins. I know they said that before, but whatever. Apparently, she's a junior and Tyrell is the senior. So Chelsea and Kat are just, they brought her out to talk about that as well. Just date guys your own age. And then they talk about the debutante experience and how she felt. And Samantha was like, I really just felt like it was a lot leading up to it because of the way Francesca and her grandmother were making her feel like, telling her she didn't belong and that she was just like this little dirty orphan. And so Chelsea and Chelsea and Kat, oh my God, I'm getting like teary eyed. It was so cute. Chelsea and Kat did something very nice for Samantha. They, as you know, they have a brand, Chelsea Cat, where they make handbags. And they did this to show Samantha just how much she really means to them. So they created a whole new bag. Oh my God. They created a whole new bag and they were going to let her name it. Thought they were going to say, this is the Samantha. And I was like, oh my God, I was already done then. I'm an emotional bug. Leave me alone. And, but they were like, no, we created this bag and we are going to let you name it. And Samantha was just like me right now. She was like, this is so great. I feel so like they were like, you could never do anything for us not to embrace you as our family. You are our family, and this is how much you mean to us, and we love you, and you will always be a Dupree. So I was like, life is just so much sometimes. I love it when you have these types of moments. This show takes me out. So then, as I said earlier, Tyrell and Jessica were having a little back and forth because he's just so mad that she's going to UCLA. And so after Smitty kicked them out, they ended up at this secret beach house, which you can tell I was born in the 80s, grew up in the 90s. There is no way on God's green earth I would have had this much freedom to come and go into somebody else's house. Yes, they're teenagers, whatever, but I'm like, what? Because y'all already know the boy is having sex. You ain't bringing no babies up in here on my watch. That's where I would have been with it, but whatever. I mean, yeah, they gonna do what they do, but they got a little too much. I don't recognize this freedom, but whatever. So they were in there just discussing it all because Tyrell is struggling with this and he's being passive aggressive because he's upset. And she's like, look, we're not going to change schools for each other. And I agree with that. That is very mature of her to say. And that, basically they're going to do what they can to make sure that this relationship stays together while they are apart. And then, they do what they do. Sex scene number 2 for the teenagers. You know, that's basically it for that scene. Okay, so then over to Vernon, who is now at Garland because Dr. Monica McCormick is there. She has surprised Shanice, and she and Shanice have caught up, and she's telling Shanice that she is a candidate for the chief of staff role, and she is considering it. And Shanice is all for it because this is her favorite aunt. She loves her dearly. Vice versa for Dr. Monica. Dr. Monica is interested, but she also has some hesitations because she still wants to be able to practice, like see her clients, because that is her actual passion. And she doesn't want the role permanently. So Shanice was like, well, why don't you negotiate? You taught me that, Auntie. You negotiate and say that you are just going to be in an interim role while they look for someone permanent and that you still want to be able to see your clients. And when Vernon pops up, that is exactly what she does. And so, he doesn't know if she's going to accept the position at first, but she does. And so he said, well, she doesn't accept it. She says those were her terms. She gave her terms, and Vernon was like, he appreciated that, and he is going to go to the board, and he does not doubt that she will get what she is requesting. So we are just waiting to hear, but all signs point to that being a thing. Now, I am going to love this, especially with Shanice, Ted, Nicole, maybe Colin Carlton too. But with all of them working together, love it because I love Dr. Monica McCormick. She is the dose of reality that they need, and I love it. Now, the last thing I'm going to talk about for Wednesday was that Naomi popped up on Smitty. And this is again after the blood plasma ring has been exposed. So now they know that Smitty was the one who brought this case to light. He is the reason Jacob went on this undercover mission or assignment. And so Smitty's just like, bracing for Naomi to tear into him. And she clearly feels a way, but she's like, I understand. And then she was like piecing things together, like, oh, you were trying to look out for me this entire time. Because he did. He would, check on Naomi more and try to look out because he understood what she was going through, but he couldn't reveal it because then that would have blown up the case. And so he was just like apologizing profusely and he took ownership of what he did, but did again apologizing. Naomi was like, I'm not thrilled, but I do get it and I accept your apology. And she was like thanking him for like being there for Jacob, basically when she couldn't. And so everything seems to be fine there. And that's basically how it ended. Now let's get into Thursday. Oh my God. Do y'all remember when they did the color ruckus on the Boondocks? It was giving me that. The color Haley. Okay. We got the full backstory on Haley and Bill on Thursday. And let me tell you what, I'm one of those people who have been like, oh, I do want to see Bill and Danny together because I want to see what it was all about. And I want to see that dynamic. That I saw Thursday, I was like, maybe I don't. So the entire episode was dedicated to Haley's origin story. And from the perspective of Danny, Bill, and Haley. So we see Danny being depressed. And I'm like, what are you sad about? No, it's always, I love you, Danny, but damn, it's always something. So Andre has been gone on a photo shoot or whatever, didn't know he was doing that. So he comes in checking up and he's like, oh, you look down. And she's just like, just looking at pictures and, oh, Bill. I know Andre is tired of talking about Bill. But I digress. Andre was a good husband. He was listening. So then she started talking about how Haley came into the picture. Oh, we also got the perspective of Naomi too. So Danny was talking about how Haley came into the picture as Naomi's friend. Naomi was talking about how she and Haley met after a Pilates class at Atrium, but I thought Atrium was new, whatever. And we saw how Haley basically slithered her way into the Dupree family. She met up with Naomi at the coffee place. She was like, oh, the Pilates instructor was hard, wasn't it? And then they started talking, and Haley was talking about how she just moved there and she wouldn't mind help looking for a place and blah blah blah. Naomi was pulled in, and so she was telling Haley everything that she needed for her to steal her daddy. Okay, she was talking about how Naomi had caught Bill cheating. Not the actual act, but she saw him like afterwards and she put two and two together, but she never said anything to Danny and she didn't say anything to Bill. So Haley had all this information. We also saw from Haley and Randy's perspective how they have been targeting Bill from day one. They have been working together this entire time. Not just when she needed to fake this miscarriage, but Randy was the one who gave her her new ID as Haley Lawson. He was the one who told her that her target was going to be Bill, because at first Haley wanted to target Joey, and he was like, "No, ma'am. Mm-mm. I work for Joey. He is Joey will see you coming from a mile away and he will kill the both of us." He was like, "Absolutely not. This is your mark, Bill Hamilton, because he's super rich. He has a huge ego, and his ego will be his downfall." And sure enough, it was. So then we see how at this point Haley is a part of the family. We see how Danny embraced her as such. Haley was giving her sob story about how she never had this growing up, and her mother turned into an alcoholic after their dad left, and blah blah blah. Danny was like, "You'll never have to go through that again." Then we see Haley go out to dinner at the country club with the Hamilton family. Bill is there. You can see him being like checking her out. He checking her out from day one. So then they're at the table, and Danny, it turns out, is actually the one who suggested Haley become a receptionist at the firm. So she is the Danny's whole perspective during this episode was like, "I served my husband up on a platter. How could I have been so dumb?" I get it, but whatever. So Haley's like, "Yes, of course I want to do this job," and blah blah blah. And Chelsea was like, "Girl, it's just filing paper. Calm down." But she starts working at the firm, and on her first day, she's in this the games, the trickery, the nonsense. She's in this outfit, this blazer, and this pencil skirt or whatever. And Bill's asking her, "How was your first day?" And, at this point, he's still trying to keep his distance a bit. And she was like, I thought you were calling me in here because of my apparel. Because I noticed the other women are so much more conservative than me. Is my outfit okay?" And he was like, "Oh, right, why are you asking me this?" She's like, "I just wanted to make sure it was appropriate." He was like, "Well, those women are 50-year-old lawyers and they dress as such." What are you trying to say, Bill? As if you're a spring chicken, but whatever. And he was like, "And you're not that, and you can dress like this." My clothes inappropriate. I said, "Yes, they are inappropriate." I screamed it at the TV. "Yes, they are. You work in a law firm. What are you doing?" Anyways, so then after a little while, we see another flashback of them. And this is after Haley has been there for a while. Now, on this day, she's coming with a tube top pleather dress. You know good and well that's not office attire, but whatever. So at this point, now Bill is comfortable enough to offer drinks and stuff. And Randy, like, we keep going back and forth with the present and the flashback. So in the present, Randy's like, "Oh, so how did you know when the time was right with Bill?" And Haley was like, "I knew that to make my move the moment, like, I knew I had him." So then we flash back to them being in the office and him offering her a drink. And she's like, "I don't know how Danny would feel about that." And he was like, "Well, you know that, Danny's barely home anyways, and this and that." He just starts bashing his own wife. Red flag number one. And so Haley just did that. She stroked his ego, and he was like, "What do you see with me?" And she was like, "I see a man." Oh, let me put on my Haley. "I see a man who works so hard for his family, and he's not being appreciated." And he's like, They just start going at it in the law firm office. I'm just like, oh my God. And Randy said the same thing back to the president. He was like, "Right there, cuz." And she was like, "To do the job." Oh, goodness. Okay. So then we're back to the flashbacks. And this is what really got me, y'all. And this was my catalyst for change in thought. So we see Haley in Danny's bedroom. Oh no. In Bill's shirt and his tie. And Bill is packing up his stuff because he has decided he is moving out. Because Danny and Chelsea were supposed to be on a flight to a modeling gig. So he and Haley are talking, and he's packing, and they start to be, she's like, ooh, I did some of my best work in this room. And he's like, oh, maybe we should like do something else before I leave. And then why is Chelsea in there? She walks over, she's like, oh, hey, Mo, like, da, 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 like talking to Danny in the background, and she's heading up to Danny's room. So she walks in and she catches Bill and Haley, and she was like, what the hell is going on? What the hell is this walking on? And he's like, Chelsea, like, don't say anything. Missy, like, what are you doing with this? And I was like, oh my God. So Chelsea is the one who found them sneaking around in Danny's bedroom, no less. So then Danny walks up behind her and Chelsea tries to shield her from this. She's like, oh no, mom, let's just leave. And then Danny sees them and it is on from there. She is shocked. She's like, I'm sorry that I'm interfering with your time. And then Bill is just so nasty to her. I mean, like, she is some woman off the street that he never knew. I'm with Haley now. She's my future, and I'm moving out. Daddy was like, oh, I'm coming to join you. It was that. Chelsea in present time, because she and Naomi are talking about this. She was like, it was as if mom's soul left her body. And yes, it was. And also, it activated her because Danny was then trying to get to Haley. And Bill was like, no, don't you put your hands on her. This is my future. This and that. I'm just like, oh my God. It was so, so bad. And I did not realize the severity of the breakup until this episode. So I was just like, you know what? Bill is a piece of trash. And he deserves this poisoning. So yeah, that was basically it for the flashbacks. Because at that point, that was their last time cohabitating or anything like that. And this is when he moved out with Haley. And so we see Naomi and Chelsea in present time, and Naomi's just like, man, if I would have said something, maybe this wouldn't have happened. And she don't care anything about Haley. She's like, whatever. With if we have any luck, maybe she'll run off with the chef because there's still time. And Chelsea was like, oh my God, how dare you? That poor chef. So they're on the same page. They still they hate Haley. I don't understand why Naomi has not said anything about Haley faking this pregnancy. This could have, like, once again, you are still withholding stuff, and I don't understand. We also see Andre and Danny. He is like really, he is a saint. He is listening to her go on and on about her ex-husband and how that all went down. And he came to the conclusion that Danny is dealing with grief. And he knows a thing about grief. And he was like, you need to take care of yourself. And you are experiencing grief, and that is okay. And focus on you. And she was like, oh, will you join me? Because he suggested like she do a bath or something like that. Will you join me? Like trying to distract with that. And he was like, you need to work this out with little Danny. It's the best advice. So he lets her, like, he gives her the time and space to do that. And then towards the end of the episode, she's able to look at a memory of she and Bill together, and she no longer feels so much grief and heaviness behind it, because she was just like, oh my God, I was such a fool. How did I allow this? Why didn't I see, like, why did I deal with this? And so it ends well. And Andre's a really good husband to her, but I think he's going to get tired of talking about Bill. At some point, somebody got to be tired of it. So then the final scenes are with Bill. He has also been talking to Caroline during this whole flashback scenario, because he had asked Caroline, was I really that blind? Like, how did I miss Mike hitting on, being a menace in the office, basically? She was like, well, you missed it because of your other activities. Okay. And so at some point, Carolyn leaves, and then Bill is just there, just reliving the final scenes where he was so mean and nasty to Danny. We don't see it, but we can hear him reliving the audio in his mind. And that's when Haley pops up to come pick up her boo, because whatever. And then they head off together. And that's how it ends. Now, I am praying to God that since we got this full and complete breakdown of Haley's origins, how she infiltrated the Hamilton family, how she broke them up, all of those things. I am hoping this story will end very soon because I am tired of her getting away with it. I am literally to the point, Bill, either die or figure this out. Okay, so let's get into Friday's episode because I was ecstatic. I am a longtime soap head, okay? And one of the first soap operas I ever watched was Young and the Restless. It is the one that I have had the longest relationship with. Even if I don't watch as consistently as I did these days, because the storylines are pretty slow. You can literally not watch for like a year and just jump right in real quick. And I might do that. But we are on the cusp of Beyond the Gates and Young and the Restless having a crossover episode, and I am thrilled. They've already done it a little bit with Devon last year, which I loved, but now we are getting the whole shebang, okay? So we opened up Friday with Vernon being on the phone with none other than Victor Newman. That is my granddaddy for life. I love me some Victor Newman. He is ruthless, and I love it. Vernon and everyone else, they are preparing for Martin's fundraiser and they have secured Victor Newman as the keynote speaker. Not only will Victor be the keynote speaker, he has already given a hefty donation to Martin's campaign and he is putting his full endorsement and support behind him because Martin reminds Victor of someone else that he supported back in the day who was Vernon. I really hope this means that Vernon has a dark side. Because while I love the happy la 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 la, I also live for a good, like, villain. A good, like a Victor Newman. I love a bad guy. And you know what? You gotta be bad sometimes to get what you need. Anyways, so Victor's on board and he's telling Anita the great news, and Martin's there as well after a little bit because he's there to prep. He's like to rehearse his speech for the fundraiser, I believe. So Anita, Martin, and Vernon are talking about, oh my gosh, Victor Newman's going to be the keynote speaker. That is so great. La, 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 la. He's giving this great donation. And Vernon's like, yes, he is. But we need to consider putting some of this money aside just in case the secret of Martin is revealed. And they need to basically pay off some hush money, which is smart because during this campaign process, you know, the opposition is going to be digging into Martin's past, and everyone is afraid of the whole I killed a racist on the side of the road coming out. And oh, by the way, we killed the other guy too when he came back to blackmail us. Now, I don't know why Martin feels so bad about it because I will never feel bad about some racists being killed. That's one. Number two, they handled it. I mean, he could have just stayed out as far as I was concerned, but Martin want to be self-righteous, and you can tell they did not grow. They grew up in luxury because ain't no way. You, the problem is solved, but whatever. Anywho's, so yeah, they are talking about that, and they are also talking about how Joey is their major person that they are like worried about because they feel like Bill won't say anything because you know it will be detrimental to his reputation, his money. Same for Ted, same for mostly everybody else involved in this super secret thing, but they are just concerned about Joey. Like if he gets pinned for this blood plasma thing on top of it, because a lot of people think he is the impaler or he has some dealings with it. Martin is just like, and if he does, he's going to want a congressman to get him out. And Martin is also concerned to hear that Vernon did approach um, Joey a while back and basically said like the debt is mine to pay and to leave Martin alone. So Martin knows that if anything goes left with Joey, he's gonna be coming after Vernon, and he doesn't like that either. But it is what it is, and there's not much they can do about it for now, other than to continue on and be hopeful that things do not blow up. Speaking of Mr. Armstrong, he is at the casino with Randy having a private conversation. Randy has put on the door, do not enter, but guess who didn't read that and walked right in? And she walked in right on time to hear Joey and Randy talking about this meeting with the Impaler. And Vanessa's like, you're meeting with the Impaler and you didn't tell me? So Joey's pissed, number one, at Randy. He's like, oh, who knew the sign on the door that said do not enter wouldn't keep you out, Randy? And so Vanessa's just, she wants to be a gangster so bad, like I have said several times. And she wants to be more involved in his business, but Joey is like, no, because my business is not a game. Okay, go ask Doug if it's a game. That's what he should have said. But nah. And Vanessa's mad that she didn't know about this, and she's been worried about the whole Impaler thing, anyways, because Jacob has vowed to take out the Impaler, and he thinks it is Joey, and he has told Vanessa so much, and so she's already on edge. And Joey's just like, I am doing these things to protect you. And no, basically, no, you cannot be involved in this because she wants to be. And he basically leaves it with, we are done having this conversation. Randy's going to take you back to the condo. Now, you can go willingly or he can carry you out. And he was like, which one is it going to be? So she stood there for a while, like trying to stand her ground. And Joey was like, Randy, get her. And she was like, don't you touch. I'm going to leave on my own. And so she does. She storms off, and Joey tells Randy to go after her and go stay with her at the condo because Joey is very, this is the most anxious we've seen Joey about anything. Like he's really on edge because he knows this Impaler is deadly and he doesn't want his boo or anyone else getting hurt. And so Vanessa goes off and Randy goes there too. So then we see Vanessa and Randy at Joey's condo, and she's just talking about like how she basically can't have another man that she loves. She can't lose another one. She is very worried and she thinks that she or Randy should be at the casino for Joey. Like she wants someone there that he trusts implicitly because she doesn't want anything to happen. So she literally begs Randy to go back to the casino and look out for Joey. And so he does. And Vanessa stays put. I'm glad she at least did that. We don't need another Derek. So then we saw a little bit of Naomi and Jacob again as well, and he is still very much upset about everything and still vowing to take out the Impaler. He also has plans to go and talk to Smitty today, while Naomi is going to go check up on Ashley. Speaking of Ashley, she is at home promoting Tide like she should. Apparently, it's in the contract. Who knows? When she hears a knock at the door, and she's like, oh, Naomi, you're early, but it ain't Naomi. It is Grayson. And she's like, what do you want? Did you not get it the last time we talked? Ashley don't want to hear nothing that Grayson is saying. But she's like, you know what? I will entertain you because I am curious just to hear what you have to say. So it's more of the same. She's like, you think you can come tell me the truth now and that it's going to erase what happened and you're the reason that Derek died and it's over for us. I don't want to talk no more. So then Naomi actually is at the door. And so Grayson is given a swift exit by Ashley. She's like, look, right on time, Naomi. Grayson, you can leave. And so he does. So after he leaves, Naomi and Ashley are just talking. And Naomi is like, I don't really believe you're done with Grayson because if you were, you wouldn't have let him in the door. And Ashley's just like, she's getting in her feelings at this point. But Naomi is giving her real talk. This is what real friends do, Ashley. And they get on the conversation of Derek. And Ashley feels like Naomi is judging a dead man because Naomi's basically like, Derek did this to himself. And yes, he did. Those are facts. No one told his ass to go to that warehouse. No one told him to jump in front of a bullet. And she's like, I can't believe you're judging a dead man, especially since he jumped in front of that bullet to save your husband. Oh, I would have popped her. Maybe. But Naomi was like, I understand you're going through a lot of things. Yes, he did save my husband. And yes, I am happy with that. But Derek was unfortunately exhibiting the same reckless behavior that got him in trouble many times before. And she was also highlighting how Derek did wrong and Grayson did wrong. Derek did wrong when he lied to you about his recovery to get you to marry him. Grayson did wrong because he got caught up and he wasn't able to tell you the truth. But she was like, I think you feel guilty or you're doing this about Grayson because you think you would be wrong in giving Grayson the second chance that you never afforded Derek. And so after a while, Ashley, like, I mean, she didn't like it, but I mean, what she was saying was true. And she's like, well, even if I wasn't done with Grayson, I don't know. And Naomi's just like, don't shut Grayson out just because you want to punish yourself over Derek's death. And that was a real conversation. And I mean, I think everything will be fine with the friends as a result. Because, like I said, it's just real talk. So then Naomi leaves and she heads over to Orphe Jeans, and Grayson happens to be there too. And he was like, oh, did Ashley kick you out too? She's like, no, just basically, she talks to Grayson and she's a good listening board. She's just like, both Ashley and Jacob are dealing with survivor's remorse, and a lot of that is clouding their movements. And she encourages Grayson just to give Ashley time because, as much as she has issues with you, Grayson, she has even more issues with herself. And Grayson's like, yeah, I could accept that. And it just looks like he's going to remain hopeful. And they talk about just his financial situation and how Leslie did offer him a position at the clinic, but he turned it down out of respect for Derek because he didn't want it to look like, I'm in here I've taken Derek's woman. I'm in here doing his job. He just felt it was disrespectful and, no, he didn't want to do that. Kudos to you, Grayson. So Naomi, she thinks Grayson is a good guy overall and that he just got caught up and she's willing to it sounds like she's willing to give him a second chance. So let's see if Ashley will. I think she will, because if not him, she's gonna be running to Andre, and I don't want that either. That was the worst. Anyways, so then we see Jacob. He is over at Smitty's house, and he is asking Smitty to now put his neck out on the line to smoke out the Impaler. Jacob is asking Smitty to write a fraudulent post to try to smoke the Impaler out. And Smitty's like, no, I'm not gonna do that. I can't believe you're asking me to jeopardize my career and write some lies. But he was like, what we can do is we could write a truthful article asking the community to help indicate where the Impaler may have struck. So basically, it's like, he's going to write an article asking people if they have been scammed by this blood plasma thing so they can kind of take note of where the Impaler has been. So Jacob agrees to that, and Smitty agrees to it as well. Oh, I also forgot to mention that his investigative article is now being turned into an entire series. And so instead of just one article, he's going to be doing 5, I believe. So I guess this will be one of the 5. And so they agree to that. So cool. Oops, excuse me. Okay, so then this was the best part of the episode for me. We are back at the casino. Joey is alone in his little back room. He has a 9mm, I believe, under the casino table where he usually sits. And we have another one at the bar. So he is making sure those things are locked and loaded and easily at his disposal just in case. And so he's like there and he's like, okay, Impaler, bring it on. So then we see Randy at the door. First, he's like, what are you doing here? And Randy explains, like, I'm loyal. Vanessa talked to me about loyalty because she had mentioned, like, she loved how Randy was so loyal to Doug and she wants Randy to be loyal to Joey as well, which he mostly is. And so he was like, Vanessa begged me to come back here and be with you, and I have somebody else watching her at the condo so she doesn't leave. And surprisingly, Joey does not get mad. He's like, you know what? She's right. And thank you for being here. I appreciate it. So then the next knock at the door is the Impaler. We don't see the Impaler yet. And I'm praying to God I see this person tomorrow. All we see is Joey's reaction. He's like, you? And that's how it is. So I'm hoping we get an answer to this tomorrow, but I kind of feel like we won't because this is the week that we are doing the Young and the Restless crossover. And I talked about this on my preview, which is already out. But we see Victor arriving on the helicopter, on the helipad. He's ready to give his keynote speech. We have Jack Abbott. We have Diane. I thought she was missing over on Young and the Restless, but here she is at this event. From what I could tell, we have Kyle there as well. And I saw Kyle to kiss Haley. She don't waste no time. I also saw, I think Devon's going to be there. I guess Abby. I don't know who else. I definitely saw those other people, but for the preview, we saw that there's going to be like some huge freak of nature storm come through, and someone's gonna be hurt because we see Kat in the preview with blood on her hands, and Ted's like, oh, you're bleeding, and she's like, this isn't my blood, and I'm like, well, whose is it? So I feel like next week is just going to be solely dedicated to the crossover. But I would like, please, I want to know who this Ding Dang Impaler is. You know what? Maybe it's someone from Young and the Restless, maybe? I don't know. What do you guys think? And what are you excited to see this week? I'm going to get off of here. It's been a long day. Thanks so much for watching. Like, comment, share, subscribe. Let me know what you think in the comments as well. I would love to talk to you guys about this, especially now that my OG soap is mixing up with my new soap. I cannot wait. I will see you guys next week.